Shutter Island is real and we're all on it. In this video, I'm going to prove it. So buckle up, buttercup, we're in for a wild ride. Stay tuned until the end because rumor has it this video may have a post-credit scene teasing the next installment like a bad Marvel movie. But for now, let's get back into the main scene. So I'll start by recapping the movie, discussing the twist and the talking point, before moving on to how could it possibly be real, and most important of all, how to use this to level up your life using the Minotaur TECA framework. So the first time I watched this film was a very long time ago. If you haven't seen it, stop watching this video right now because spoilers are ahead. Cue all the flashing images and the lights and the big spoiler warning sounds. Now I remember enjoying watching it the first time around, but because it was so long ago, I pretty much forgot everything about the movie except one main thing. So once again, spoiler alert, look away now, otherwise it's gonna be revealed. Leonardo DiCaprio's character is actually a psychiatric patient throughout the movie. So watching it the second time around put a completely different slant on the movie itself. Knowing this, and then you end up seeing a lot more that you didn't see the first time around. Like each scene that passed, you're now thinking, yeah, that makes sense. He's a patient.
But I am telling you right now that back there is not real.
Now there's still a debate today in terms of what actually happened in the film. There are those who believe he is a psychiatric patient who couldn't get to grips with killing his wife for killing their children because he himself didn't get over the fact that he was unable to get her the help she needed for her depression. And so in the movie, the doctors enacted one big role play as a last-ditched effort to make him see his insanity and accept the truth of what he did. And then there are those that actually believe he was a US Marshal about to uncover the dirty secrets of Shutter Island. And the doctors successfully convinced him that he was crazy to stop him doing so. Much like people disappearing when they try to expose Epstein Island, or Hollywood fires destroying daily secrets. Watching the movie the second time around, I felt like I was the former. The talking point that stood out for me, however, was the ending, the plot twist. It appears the roleplay experiment worked and he does come to his senses. He accepts that he is insane, that he killed his wife, and the conspiracy of the island was something he made up to hide the truth of what he did. But then it seems like it hasn't quite worked, as he slips back into believing it's a conspiracy. At which point the doctors shake their heads, acknowledging the experiment failed. And thus he is now to be lobotomized. But testament to Leo's acting ability and delivery, the question actually remains. Has he retraced and gone back to his delusion? Or is he pretending he has because he's willfully accepted to be lobotomized after now realizing and accepting the truth?
Which would be worse? To live as a monster, or to die as a good man? Daddy?
If he tells the doctors he fully understands, he's a patient and now he is better, there is no lobotomy and he continues to live like a monster. But by pretending to still be delusional, the doctors have no choice but to lobotomize him. And so he chooses to die like a hero instead. In this case, the hero being the US Marshal uncovering a conspiracy plot. So is he a monster that killed his wife? Or is he a hero that's a US Marshal trying to uncover a dirty conspiracy? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. But how is Shutter Island real and how is it that you are on it? The concept of the film has many sinister undertones for the society in which we live today. Shutter Island can be described as 1. A psychiatric ward for patients, or 2. An experimental center to conduct psychological warfare. Now, this has been something going on for decades, but over the last 5 years, it's been so intense that it's actually been very visible. We are all collectively living in an environment which is an experimental testing ground, as well as living in psychological warfare, whereby we're all suffering from some type of trauma, causing us to only see facts or delusions that we want to see. Don't believe me? Well, let's present the evidence, says my lawyer background. Attention, please. I present to you Exhibit A. COVID and the COVID era was absolutely perfect to demonstrate this. You were either a crazy conspiracy theorist anti-vaxxer, or you were a dumbed down NPC government-controlled shill. Nothing in between. Whichever side you landed on, you only saw that side, and you developed an intense hate and dislike for those on the opposite side. The division in COVID caused friends and families to split, and it's still something a lot of people have not recovered from. But the biggest damage that era did was completely erode the trust in authority and legitimize conspiracy theories. We're now at a point where many people believe that everything is a conspiracy. Everything is a giant governmental experiment. Everything is a play in one big giant game. Whether those overlords are the Illuminati, the Deep State, the Cabal, aliens, Pleiadians, or fourth or fifth density entities. In other words, you are free to choose your truth. You are free to choose your delusion. Once chosen, all you will see is evidence to point towards the proof of your delusion. And we saw it again last year when Terrence Howard was blowing up. They don't tell you this, but being an on-camera performer makes your throat very dry and it's difficult to speak. So in this behind-the-scenes footage, here's a secret. This script that you're now seeing of this video was actually drafted last year when the Terrence Howard thing was just kicking off. And so the initial script said, we're now seeing this with the Terrence Howard, rather than last year we saw this. So yeah, this script I drafted back in May 2024, but writer's block meant it's only being released now. In other words, I've been a lazy If you haven't seen the Terrence Howard Joe Rogan podcast, I suggest you watch it to understand what I'm talking about, because it sparked a huge debate across the globe. And once again, you had your sides. Which truth do you believe, or which delusion do you believe? On the one hand, you had traditional science and the traditional worldview, and now you have Terrence Howard seemingly bringing in a new model. And the traditional model is 1 times 1 equals 1. The new model is 1 times 1 equals 2. And so it began. At first, they'll discredit you, they'll call you crazy, a lunatic, they'll make you believe you are a psychopath, just like on Shutter Island. But on the other hand, the majority of us have now witnessed so much psychological trauma over the past few years from the COVID era, from constantly seeing videos and images of war, from constant negativity and hate. So much so that there's an increasing and enthusiastic attraction to a world view or a delusion that is opposite to the norm. How can I accept the norm when the norm is nothing more than wars, fighting, stress, depression? Instead of facing this reality of hardship, it's easier for me to accept a delusion that we're living in a grand conspiracy, which is also known as the Great Awakening. The world is controlled by satanic monsters, controlling every aspect of our lives, and we need to escape, just like Shutter Island. If it's not the Great Awakening, then it's the Great Reset. And then you have many people today who believe the world is going through an awakening shift, being assisted by Pleiadians and aliens and benevolent beings. Or you have a third and even worse point of view. My life is so mundane, boring and dull. In an age of dopamine and desperate crackhead need for fixes, I can't accept that my life is boring because I equate that with me being boring. In other words, a boring life means that I am a boring person. Either I sink in my own depression and misery, trying to come to terms with this fact, or I find a dopamine fix from forming my own delusional fantasy, which creates some sort of excitement even if it's batshit crazy. Here's the kicker. The more time I spend thinking about this delusional fantasy, the more I start to see evidence of its existence. And now I'm a prisoner of my own mind, not knowing what to believe, not knowing who to trust, and worst of all, not being able to trust myself. And so now I'm looking for a savior, the Messiah, the Mahdi, the return of Jesus. Lisan al-Gaib.
Lisan al-Gaib! Lisan al-Gaib!
Or the Anunnaki, or the Pleiadians. Think about this too deeply, and the option you are left with is not realizing you're batshit crazy and continuing to play this merry-go-round of conspiracy and paranoia, or waking up to the truth and understanding you are delusional, in which case you've got the same choice as the character of Leonardo DiCaprio. Accepting you've been had by your own insanity, facing yourself to the difficult truths and hardships of life, or accepting that you are just insane and just checking out and giving up. To bring this point to a close then, what is truth other than the delusion you choose to believe? What is true? It's wherever you want to be true. So choose your truth to be one that builds you up and empowers you, rather than one of no hope and that you are in a battle that you can't win. Whichever you choose, you will be correct. And from there, you will find evidence after evidence after evidence to back up and provide proof for the choice you made. And this is where the TECA framework comes in. If you've been following the brand and the channel, you know I talk a lot about Minotaurs, and this is just one of the many Minotaurs in the maze of your mind. Trying to understand the truth means critical thinking. Don't just fall for what you see and hear. Really be critical of yourself more than anything else. Ask yourself, why is this your truth? What makes you so certain it's the truth? Can you even at least see another point of view? Once you've gone through that self-reflection, critical thinking stage, the next part is to then evolve. The greatest thing you can do is to build yourself, build your confidence, build your self-esteem, personality, mindset, and soul. Because that right there is the game. The game is to destroy your self-esteem to the point that you stop trusting yourself. You stop having self-worth. To win, therefore, is to build yourself so you have strong self-esteem and you have great self-worth. Because remember, they will never let you off this island. And do you know why? Drum roll, please. Because the island is your mind. Shutter Island exists and you're on it because it literally is a metaphor for your mind. Fortify your mind so the evil ones can't conquer and inhibit it. Clean it so that instead of it being a place for psychological warfare, disturbing experimentation and paranoia, it becomes your very own island of bliss. In that way, Shutter Island becomes Stunner Island instead. Because if you don't, Shutter Island just becomes another Minotaur's maze in your mind. Just full of doubts, deceptions, insecurities, anxieties, depression, and delusions. When you see Shutter Island as a metaphor for your mind, you can then explore the fears that you have, the guilt and the self-deception that's creating a mental prison for yourself. We're quick to blame other people, we're quick to blame society, but what if the only person holding you prisoner is just your mind and the delusions that you convince yourself of? Now we can look at this another way, which is the corporate world, which in my opinion is another mental illness in and of itself. We've all been lied to about exchanging our time, energy and effort for money. In the 9-to-5 corporate world, you're just a patient that needs to continue working your prison shift. Be a debt slave, knock back pills, numb yourself with intoxicants and entertainment. You want out of that system? Well then, you're a menace to society and a loser that just wasn't successful at school, in business or in career. So you continue to live the life, you continue to live the lie, even though it quite literally has sucked the living daylights out of you, and you live every day as an autonomous, miserable drone. Why? Because you've willfully given up control of your mind to the system. It controls your mind rather than you controlling your mind. Hence, depression, anxiety, and mental health issues are rampant right now. You're just an experimental rat. But here's the good news. Shutter Island is your mind, so you control when you get off. Once you start critically thinking, once you analyze everything, once you do the internal work of self-reflection, you then use all of that to improve yourself, which is the second part of the TECA framework, evolve. And then once you evolve, once you better yourself physically, spiritually, psychologically, you then contribute. You become selfless and instead be of service to others. With the right intentions, the right actions, and good deeds, you then get to the final stage, which is ascension. Because the whole purpose of navigating the island is to ascend. It's to find the center point, your soul, and elevate it so that it returns to source. So what will you do? Will you get off the island or continue battling yourself through life? What do you think? Does the metaphor of Shutter Island being your mind resonate with you? I'd love for you to share your opinion in the comments below. As ever, subscribe if you enjoyed this content and want to see more like it. And this wouldn't be a YouTube video without some kind of mentioning a sponsorship. Lucky for you, I have no sponsors, so I'm just gonna promote something that will help you get off your Shutter Island and progress in your life. One of the biggest fears holding people back is the fear of speaking. It held me back for a long time. I was very shy, anxious, an introvert that just couldn't speak, and now I'm dissecting movies and metaphors like it's nothing. You too can do the same, and if you want to fight your fear, your Minotaur of the fear of speaking, then the best way to do it is to make videos like this. And the reason you want to make videos is so that you can build a brand, which can then help you build a better business or an income or get a better job or just start to have fun like I do with these videos. So if that's a Minotaur that you want to conquer, the program that I have for you is perfect. It's called the Minotaur Video Exemplar Program, where we systematically go through your fears of speaking and how to create content consistently so that you can build a brand and then become a role model in the process. Click on the link and sign up to the email list where you'll get a free course about this. With that being said,